I'm Jane Applegath. This is the Epic Vision Zone, where bold ideas meet extraordinary leaders. What if healing isn't about fixing what's broken, but remembering who you are beneath the fear? And what if serenity isn't something you find, but something you can access even in the middle of uncertainty? Bron Watson is a nurse, educator, entrepreneur, and the founder of the Social Coach and the Serenity Project. With decades of experience in healthcare and education, Bron has always been drawn to the places where care, communication, and human connection matter most. For years, she empowered thousands of business owners to share their voices with intention. But in 2017, her life took an unexpected turn. Bron was diagnosed with breast cancer, and 5 years later, she received a second diagnosis, an incurable blood cancer. Rather than allow these diagnoses to define her, Bron created the Serenity Project. She calls this the third space, where science meets soul, evidence meets lived experience, and where people reconnect with themselves in a way that feels honest, spacious, and real. Serenity is not the absence of diagnosis, it is the coherence within it. Bron's story reflects a powerful truth. When life destabilizes externally, we either collapse into fear or cultivate internal coherence. This conversation is about courage. It's about navigating uncertainty without falling into fear. And it's about discovering serenity, not as escape, but as embodied strength. Welcome, Bron. Thank you for joining us here today.
And thank you so much for having me.
Well, I am so excited to get into this topic because, as we know, this is spot on for today's world. And Bron is joining us all the way from Australia. So welcome. And let's dive right in. You've been through cancer twice while running a business. What was going through your mind about your business, your future, and what real healing looks like when life changes in an instant?
And that is a great question. Now, the thing with that is it's such a huge question. So that changed over time, as did I, as I went through the diagnosis and the treatment, and then, of course, out the other side. So at the time of diagnosis, I think I was in the vortex of fear. So I was in free fall. So I was not in a place. I went from diagnosis on a Thursday to an operating table the following Wednesday. So there was no time to process. And then you're caught into the hamster wheel of treatment and looking at how the heck did this happen to me. But I think the biggest epiphany came, and I've talked about this before, where I'd had my second second chemotherapy, so bald as a badger. And I was on a Zoom. I was actually on a live into my Facebook group at the time. I was running a mastermind in my business, and I caught a glimpse of myself. And I looked at myself because I was thinking, who is that person? And I went, do you want to die? Do you want to die? And it was such an epiphany because I realized in that time that if I did not change what I was doing, because I was showing up at that time because I had promised myself, I wore it like a badge of honor, that I would deliver what I say I'm going to deliver. And what I realized in that moment is that at what cost was I going to deliver? And I was delivering for somebody else at the cost of my life. So I literally shut that mastermind down overnight. And it was not an easy time. It was a lot of people involved. And that was the beginning of what I would now call the Serenity Project, because I realized that changes, there was going to be my life table. So that's where it all started. And it happens over time. It's not something that happens, wow, I've just got it and now I'm good. I wish. I wish it was that easy, but it's not. And so you go through those stages, and we all have adversity. So insert your own adversity into this situation. And it's about working through. And that's where I started with Serenity. And I used to think that word was very woo-woo, like, oh yes, whatever, like it was so not in my world. But I realized what it was is that serenity prayer, which is God grant me serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, just for everybody out there, please insert whoever you believe, God, the universe. I joke around and say Dennis, insert whoever you believe in. But the biggest thing with that is to work out what is in your control and what is not. Where can you find the courage? What can be changed? What can't? And then understand the wisdom. So now I talk about feel the feels, control the controllables, because not everything is, especially where we are right now, there's so much we can't control. So that's where it all came, and it's evolved over time. And then with the second diagnosis, which we can talk to in a little bit, but I thought I'd done all the work. Don't you love that? I thought I'd done a lot of the work or done the work until I got the second diagnosis. Says, no, Bron, you need a lot more here. So that's where this incurable diagnosis came, and that's when all the fun really began in terms of the work on myself, because it was, it's this epiphany over time, and it's that's probably the best way for me to describe it.
Wow, that's so interesting because, you said before this, you considered serenity as a woo-woo concept and something not that you would ever be teaching. But it's like I say, there's a gift within each of us. And sometimes the universe, God, whatever, has to smack us across the head and say, well, this is your gift and we know you can handle it. So, you're here to share this insight and this incredible gift that you have. So thank you for sharing that story. Well, that being the case then, Bron, I'm curious then, you have kept a business. Now you've gone from that mastermind to what you have today, which is, so you're now keeping another business running during treatment rather than
Yes.
shutting it down. So how do you prevent burnout now? And this would be great for our audience members who are caught in this wheel, this hamster wheel.
I think the biggest thing to look at, what I can only talk about for myself. So, this is where I say to people, take the bits that resonate and leave the rest. But for me, what I did was I looked at what was within my business. So I was not able to deliver what I was doing. So I had to dig deep. So I looked at, well, what was easy for me at the time, which was social media. I'd done a lot of training with this beautiful lady called Jennifer, who had been a part of Barack Obama's second social media campaign. So I'd done a lot of work in that space, but I hadn't really done much with it. So I looked at what was easy. I call it quality easy. What was easy in front of me, and then being able to put something together from that. Because the last thing when you are going through adversity or crisis, do you want to go and start upskilling or finding something new? It's not the time for me. There's no way I would have had capacity. And as we were talking before, I realize now that energy is the most important thing within a business, not skill set, not strategy, but energy and the awareness of where and how and why we want to put it. So the very first thing you do, for what I did, was look, what could I do within my wheelhouse, toolbox, call it what you will. What could I deliver quality? Because remember, I had my badge of honor. I was delivering what I said I was going to deliver, and I'm very passionate about being the quality in that space. What could I do? How could I do that within my scope at the time? And I literally went to running for our Facebook workshops back in 2018, and that's all I had capacity for. So, and remembering I only had one employee at that time. I have 4 now, and it was I was responsible for not just myself, but for my team. And even through the second diagnosis, same thing. I think that's the biggest thing. And that comes to looking at what's right there that is not going to cost you your health, your family, your mental health specifically.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Well, the mental health comes first, as we talked about earlier. I mean, It all is in the mind. I mean, we're so powerful. It's like Joe Dispenza often says, if our mind can make us sick, can it make us well? And it can do both. So yes, and
It can
being
do both.
aware, yeah. And your awareness, Bron, of knowing that that was something that you had to assess, take a breath and just step back and look at, I don't want to shut down everything because you have a purpose and you obviously have a beautiful voice and you have gifts to share. But what can I do in this moment that will fulfill me but not overwhelm me? And those are just great questions to just pause and ask oneself when someone is in a place where they, feel as though, things are coming to a close. And like you said, you had that moment where you looked at yourself and you said, do I want to die? I was like, wow, that is, yeah, that awareness is incredible, because a lot of people don't come to that awareness, really, seriously.
No, and I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I didn't know that it was resilience. I didn't know that it was awareness. I was literally in life-saving moments, and financially, our family, because I'd built this big beast, and I say that with love. I am so grateful for the lessons I have learned by growing and doing what everybody else says to do online, because that's what it was. I would build a beautiful mentoring business based on what everyone else tells you to do online, but it wasn't right for me. And it took the brick, the brick through the smack on the head before I took notice, versus the little notices of the feather, or that little feeling in your stomach going, Bron, this is not right. And I'd had them for years. So it's a challenging time, because for me, I was in crisis, and crisis is not the time to be making life decisions. With that said, when health is involved, for me, health is always first. That's my decision for me. But interestingly enough, 2026, Jane, is the first year that I've actually planned a goal and a vision in the last 3 years. So we can talk about that later, but it's very interesting. And the goal is actually my word, which is healing. Healing is at the center of my business plan.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Well, that you will get into that definitely. But that being said, then what changed the second time around to your reaction when you were diagnosed the second time? I mean, was it a continuation of, okay, I've got to take some time for myself, I have to reassess my business? What was the reaction the second time around?
The second time around, this time being incurable, and this one involving a prognosis, so a number, Bron, you have this many years to live, and it was a single digit. Very different, because and we should all have this anyway in life, right? Tomorrow's not guaranteed to anyone, but that's when I went, well, do I want to have doing everyone else's social media on my tombstone? Is that what I want to be known for? So it was far worse, far more dramatic, because again, it was February 2023, and I was told, Bron, you've got about a week and a half before we're starting chemotherapy, and you will be having a stem cell transplant, which is where they take your baby stem cells, they clean them, they put them back in, and it's like a month in hospital. And it's very I think it's the heaviest dose of chemotherapy ever is what you have prior to a stem cell transplant, which I didn't know at the time, right? But when that is put on your head, so it's like, no, it's not my first rodeo, and yes, we can have these conversations, and it's literally like, Bron, would you like a cup of tea? That's how long you've got to, like, it was that kind of conversation. And in hindsight, what I know now, and this is where I'm very passionate about serenity and finding, but I'm one of, I think when I walk in, my doctors go, oh gosh, here she comes. But I have the most amazing, wonderful relationship with the team, because we are part of a team. But it's more, that time was, I spent 6 weeks just staring at the trees out the back of my house going, please, please, God, give me time. Please, please just give me time. And of course I didn't get time. I got a week before the chemotherapy. So it then really hit hard, which is, Bron, how do you want to live these last years of your life? What is going to bring you joy? What is going to matter? How do you want to make life matter? How do you want to feel joy every single day? And that is where I worked very hard on myself and finding serenity. So when I talk serenity, I'm not talking like sitting there all day going, yay, this is amazing. What I'm talking about are moments in time. A moment where you are at peace with yourself and you can look and enjoy them. It's gratitude. It's enjoying those moments because I have this saying I say it at the end of every podcast that I on my own podcast, which is when we have the moments are what make the memories, and that is how we make every day count. So if you can have a think about your moments, doesn't matter what you do with them, but just think about and be so grateful for the moments you have, I guarantee you your life will change.
Yes, absolutely. There's a very famous saying, and a quote that talks about the moments in life. It's not on the tip of my tongue, so I'm not going to say it because I'll just mix it up. But it's definitely talking about what you say, that it's life is about the moments and the memories that you create. So yes, thank you so much for that insight. Well, the Serenity Project is a very unique project, and what distinguishes it from other wellness programs, and who is it for?
Well, that's a really good question, and I do think about that myself. Like, am I going, why am I doing this? Basically, the Serenity Project was born because of my background as a nurse and nurse educator, as an entrepreneur, I know how to find information. I don't need to be a scientist to read a science journal. So this is what I say to my people. You're not a scientist, so don't try to be the scientist and read all the data. Let the scientists be the scientists. Let the doctors be the doctors. Let the chiros and the iridologists, let everyone be in their lane, but bring them into your team. So it's a space. So I call it the third space because it's where science and soul meet with evidence and perspective. So evidence comes from, I have 30 plus years in the health profession. And the perspective is because I am now living it. And I've been living it on both sides for over 8 years. And that space, because otherwise you just got to keep looking. And I think people and places are getting better. There's some great places out there. This is just my way of bringing my ways of thinking. So I have the Seren framework, I have the Serenity framework. So it's based pulling those things together for people going through cancer, who have already gone through cancer, their carers, and people who want to have a better understanding on how to work with their bestie who happens to be going through breast cancer. Because there's ways and things, it's all learned. We can learn all of this. It doesn't, resilience can be learnt, and perspective and awareness, it all can be learnt. So it's just a space for those who are wanting to learn more about how they can have the awareness in this space. This could have been brought to the business space. I'm writing a book, it's called The Serenity Project, Finding the Calm Through the Chaos of Cancer. I could have written that entrepreneurs going through chaos. Like, it's the same, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter where it goes, because adversity is adversity. But it's unique in the fact of where it comes from and how it's built. It's built with a whole team, a whole swag of experts, because as I said, I have my lane, Jane, but we have with doctors and naturopaths and people who understand. And that, I feel, is important for everyone, is to, even in business, find your team. You can't know it all. Find the coaches, find the people who know how to do the things, because it's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of heartache, and you're going to get there faster. Same for Serenity.
Right. Yes. Find your people. It's alchemy is what it is, Bron. I mean, you're bringing those puzzle pieces together so that you have a whole for your message, because as we discussed earlier, we have so much potential within us. It's just a matter of tapping into what they are. Like, why do we align with certain things, and the energy, the frequency that we emit, and Why does your space matter? I mean, it's just amazing that once we're aware and we get this knowledge, like you have gathered from medical, and you've gathered from your business building, and you've gathered from your personal experiences, it's you're the alchemist, and we're coming to you to understand how it worked for you so that we can go out and teach others. So yes, it's beautiful. I love that. And of course, like you said, it's
Oh, thanks.
applicable to anybody. It's applicable to anybody and
Anyone.
everything. In your case, it's the cancer, but in others, it could be a business, it could be, your life story. Yeah, absolutely. This is a broad topic. So yeah,
Very, yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, I was saying, and the thing is with serenity, it's find your serenity, because my serenity is not yours, right? So
Mhm.
there are people who go, well, Bron, I'm going through these things over here, not cancer. It doesn't make it any less worthy in your space. It's as important to you. So it's not about comparing yourself to someone else's story. It's about going, cool, where can I find
Right.
my serenity for me, my way? And for me, that's healing. And healing can be applicable to anything, healing from anything, just from life, because as you get older, adversity hits. It just does.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that being said, let's walk through the serenity framework and how you developed it. I think we got a picture of how you developed it, but walk us through the framework.
Now, I am going to pick it up to just double check. Now, the reason why I'm picking up my notes is you're thinking, Bron, you should know all of this. I do have, I have such bad brain fog. I don't know if it's age related. It's definitely the side effects of what I've been through. So you know what? Here we go. Here's Bron's notes.
Oh, it's
So
fine.
it's hilarious. I go, look, you know what? I had to do a talk on stage last year and I had to have notes. I was beside myself because I'd just literally have these, just to literally stop my brain processes stop. So yeah, now literally, as I said before, the third space. So the S is for space. We want that third
Mm,
space. And then the E is evidence, clearly, because we're looking for evidence that is grounded, but it's also wisdom. So there's a lot of evidence that,
mm,
because I think that in health, people go, it's either or. Oh, alternative therapy. No, it's not alternative. It's just therapy. It's just treatment.
mm,
So that's what the E is for, is evidence. And then I have refuge. Now, the reason why I use refuge, it's a space for everyone. And I think when it comes to having chaos or having a crisis, you want to have a safe place. And I think that's what I'm aiming for. Is my goal is to help people find their own safe space, and to have
mhm,
people to go, yeah, I get it. Yep, I get it. And then I have empathy. Now, empathy, I use the word empathy because as a nurse, I would have a lot of empathy for my patients. And then I would have empathy for my clients. But empathy is for ourselves too, is to be
mhm,
compassionate and have empathy for ourselves. And I think that's, as to be a leader, to be a really good, compassionate and strong leader, you really need to have, I believe, to have that compassion and empathy with a situation or how you do business. The N is for narrative. So this is all about the stories, because I
mm,
didn't belong to any kind of groups in cancer because I didn't want to hear anyone else's story because I couldn't handle my own. But there are many, many people who learn through storytelling. Look at TEDx. It's all stories.
mhm,
Now, I is for impact. Now, impact is all about being accountability for your own well-being. So it's about how do you want to impact yourself. The T is the trust. Of course, everything is about trust. And the trust, my friends, is actually trusting yourself that you are making the right decision for you. That's what
mhm.
trust is. Yes, it's trust of other people, but it's more importantly, you trust yourself to make the decisions when you go to your health professionals, when you go to choosing paths of treatment, that you have trust for yourself. That's where
Mhm.
I believe anyway. And then why is actually your serenity, like I've just said, which is, you find your serenity, because Bron's serenity, oh my goodness, you don't, you don't want mine. But it's around finding it. And I liken it to putting healing in your phone on a GPS. Get your phone out,
Mm.
type in healing. What happens? There's a blue line. We're going to healing, and you follow the path. And you follow the path even when you don't know what the heck is going on. Because no matter what, if we come to a roadblock, what does the GPS do? It just diverts you around it, but it always goes back to healing, not healed, healing. So that's where serenity, and this will evolve over time. So I am the project, I'm the beta test here, and it's more about the fluidity that life, look what we're seeing in our world right now. Things change in a blink of an eye.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about that at the beginning, how
Yeah.
nobody knows what tomorrow is going to bring. Nobody knows what the next hour is going to bring. So we all need this practice because we all need to get grounded. I mean, that's where our
That's what
power
it is.
begins. Yeah, our power begins by being grounded. And the more we become aware of where we are and our mindset, meaning, are we dealing with chaos and all the static, like getting involved, like you said, whether it be for health, whether it be for the world news, whether it be for business, or do we just step back and understand that serenity, as you've beautifully spelt it out here with an acronym, is available to all of us. We just need to create that space and then start from there. And it's all a reset. We have to reset all the time. It's
Totally.
fine. It's like I said, it's a practice, and we just keep, the point is not to give up, it's just to keep going and know that you have these tools available to you, definitely through your practice and programs. So beautifully said. Well, Bron, you have a resilience versus relentless. So I'm really curious, what
Yes.
is the difference and why does it matter? And what's the most common misconception that you see about resilience, especially when it comes to women entrepreneurs?
Well, this is where the lesson came from. So the best way I explain this thought for me and for others is, we have two trees we actually have them out in my front yard, would you believe? We have a gum tree, a beautiful gum tree. It's huge, it's straight, it's going straight up, and it's so strong. It, and the and you know, it's so it's the hugest tree in the property. But when the storm comes, what happens? The branch falls off. So in Australia, they're called widowmakers, because back in the day, when they would be in the forests and chopping the trees down, these branches would fall for no reason. They would just fall off, and they would kill the person cutting the tree because they were called a widowmaker. So they're so strong. That's what relentless is like, because you are so determined and strong, and you're going to the goal, or you're doing whatever you've set out to achieve. But this gum tree, there's a willow tree. It's not as big, it's not as grand, but its leaves and its branches just tip over, and it moves with the storms. It moves and it sways. It's flexible. And that's the difference between relentless and resilient. Resilience is the willow tree, where you can move and be flexible with the storm, versus being relentless. And relentless, back in, like, I think in business, from my experience, I can't talk for anyone else, that there was a lot of hustle and you wore it like a badge of honor. And I would work and I'd work and I'd work because that is what everyone tells you to do, because it's the right thing, because you were so hung on achieving what you wanted to achieve. You'd set your year's goal and you'd done your quarters and you've got your 90-day plan. And no matter what, you were going to reach that goal, no matter what. That's relentless. Until your branches fall off your tree, and then what are you going to do? Can't do it anymore, can you? Versus being flexible, writing in pencil, and having the goal. So now I deliver absolutely what I'm going to deliver, but I deliver it on my timeline. And if it's not right, we don't do it. That's the difference for relentless, and that's my best way of describing it, so that people can understand. It's as simple as, because having to-do lists and doing tasks, getting up at 5 a.m. and meditating for 45 minutes, that's great if that's what you want. But if you're doing it because it's controlling and you want to control your time, versus being flexible and go, you know what, I'm tired today. Listen to your body. Your body is talking. And as Joe Dispenza says, the body does keep the score. So we want to really, I encourage people to build a business now on being a willow tree, having the resilience to stand the storms, but still 100% going to exactly where you want to go, which is that beautiful tree that may not be as grand and as tall, but it absolutely is perfect for you.
Right. It withstands the storms because it's
It
flexible.
withstands the storms. Yeah.
Yeah. The other snaps, and that's your health. And I've spoken to so many female entrepreneurs here that have their story has become their business now, much like yours, but in their case, they've had burnout. And
Yes.
the way that they realized it was their health gave up on them. And they, nobody could figure out what it was. There was no specific cause. It was stress, basically. And that's, but women, yeah. And so are women more prone to this then? Because my second question was about the female entrepreneurs. Why are we more likely to do this? I have a feeling it's because we want to prove something, but I'd like to hear what your analysis is.
Yeah. It's a good and it's a great question. And I feel for female entrepreneurs. And so I was 41 to be exact. So last child on hip, 5 boys. When I know, what would have a
boy mom?
Thinking, why would you have a baby? I'm a boy mom, right? So I'm sitting there at my 40th and I'm going, right, is this it? This 40, is it? Wow. Okay. So what I signed up for. Okay. And when I had that feeling in my gut, which was I knew there was more. And I think that's a lot of female entrepreneurs have that feeling that they are destined for more. So I looked at all my other friends who were running businesses. Couldn't have been that hard, was it? It looked pretty easy to me, because women are so good at putting the show on and how successful they are, but at the cost underneath. And so I didn't realize just how challenging it can be. And I think that, it's finding, I think when you've had, for me, I can only talk for me, when I've had the babies, when I've given so much in a career, and I knew that I was destined for more, but I wasn't quite sure what it was, but I knew that I wanted to do something for me. So I don't know if I'd use the word to prove something, but it was more something that I wanted something for me, because I had given so much of me to everybody that I wanted my time for me. And I chose to start a business. And my very first business was called Nurse Power. So being an educator, I built an online course for nurses to be more aware, pretty much exactly what I'm talking about now, but I didn't realize what I was saying at the time about being that compassionate, but not having that burnout and not giving at a cost, but also not getting sucked into the, like in my space, it's that, or in business, which that toxic positivity or the comparisonitis, or, that person looks amazing and you walk into that networking event and like they're all coiffed in hair and you've turned up and I'm going, oh my Lord, look at you. Oh no, look at me. And that feeling of not being good enough. So I think it was the fact that I wanted something that I could say I did for me. And that's where it began. And I think that's where we are so relentless at wanting to achieve. And I feel if I could go back to myself at 40, I would say to myself, Bron, please just be aware of your energy. Be aware of your energy and be conscious of where you give it. Please give it to the people who need it, but yourself first. And if I had that lesson stuck on the front end of my business, I had mentors, I did all the things, I had some amazing mentors. But if I'd learnt that before the hustle, I don't know where I'd be now. Maybe different space. I don't know.
Yeah. But this is we're learning as we go. And that's the experience, right? And I have to say, I really love your word comparatonitis. I think we have to put that in the dictionary. That is fantastic. Oh my God, you've got comparatonitis. That's it. You should do that.
Oh my goodness.
Comparatonitis.
Well, it's true, and it is. Look, I'm sure there are many people who go, oh, yeah, that was me. Well, it was me. I did it. And as I said, I didn't look like everyone else. So I didn't feel I belong. And maybe I just was on the wrong room. That's really what was the problem, is I was just in the wrong room.
Bron, we all do it, and women are guilty of it more than men. But yes, we all, even in our families, we compare. It's just, I don't know. It's a something that's we probably pick up from our parents. I'll blame them.
Yeah,
What can we say? But
that's it.
talking about all of this and certainly committing yourself. What now then did you say for people who say that setting boundaries means that you're not committed enough? Because I'm sure you may have heard that, or you have people who have talked to you about that, and they say, well, I'm surrounded by these doers and achievers, and I tell them that I need to take time or whatever, and they say, well, you're just not committed enough. Or unfortunately, it happens a lot in corporate. So what would
It
you
does.
say to someone like that?
And it is a really tough position to be in. Let's be honest. Let's
Mhm.
acknowledge this whole feeling right now and go, if that's you right now, I'm really sending a lot of love and support your way, because it's a really hard place to be. And especially if you're in corporate, because corporate, for some reason forgets that there is an actual human behind what's going on. So I feel that when it comes to setting boundaries, I used to think that boundaries were, well, I didn't really understand what it meant, because I was such a giver. I'd been in healthcare, and what I know now is that boundaries are your superpower. Now, a
Mhm.
boundary, when I talk boundaries, I'm just talking about I am protecting my energy, is what I'm doing. I'm protecting Bron, the Bron you can't see, the Bron that's inside. And that Bron, to be the best person she can be, needs to be healthy. And so if we're looking at wellness and we're looking at and healthy, it's around learning and being aware of listening to yourself. Because I'm very much a person, like in charity, I've said yes, so like I've helped so much in lots of different places, and it doesn't really end well. So
Mm.
because of the kind of person, and there's just so many good people out there, but it's not a weakness, it's your superpower. Because if
Mhm.
you're listening to someone and it's black and white and say, thank you so much, thank you for the opportunity, but that's actually, like for me, I will look for a solution somewhere else for them and say, hey, well, maybe go and talk to this person over there. They may be able to help you. But it's just, and because what if you're not listening to that? You say yes to something that your gut has said no to.
Mhm.
Think
Yeah.
about things that have happened in your life. All of you just sit and think about, okay, whatever you said yes when you should have said no. Did it end well? Chances are it didn't. And I kick myself and go, my God, I've done it again. How could Bron? Come on. And it's not about making the mistakes. What it's about is learning and going,
Mhm.
great. Thank you for that lesson. I worked with this most amazing woman. And is it okay just to say one little tiny swear word?
Sure. Go ahead.
She calls them the shit angels. So the shit angels, she calls them shit angels, right? Because she said, Bron, that shit angel's coming to teach you a lesson. And it's not their fault. It's
Mm.
just this lesson in life to go, Bron, please, please have a think about that boundary. So that boundary, guys, is a superpower. It's not a weakness, and there's no guilt or shame or blame attached to it, because you are protecting you. And in my
Mm.
world, I'll look for someone, or I'll help them in a direction with a better outcome, because I'm not the best outcome. I'm not the best person to help there, or my time is better put into healing, or my family. So it's not selfish. To have a boundary is not selfish. It's actually really, really powerful. And you are a far, far better entrepreneur, mother, wife, partner, insert whatever you want here. You're a better human being when that boundary is in place.
Yes, absolutely. Because you do away with the resentment, and you're actually giving to yourself by doing that. And that's one thing that we don't do enough. It's like you mentioned compassion and having empathy. But the number one individual that needs those is yourself. And we're always, people. It's a lesson that we need to learn as humans because we are the hardest on ourselves. But once we understand that that's the power, it's not the softness, but you have to have both. You have to have the
Yeah,
grace and the strength.
you
So
do.
yes, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
And yeah, and I wanted to add there. Sorry, I thought of that. Is that there's a saying that my mother-in-law taught me, which is I don't know if it was mother-in-law. It might not have been her. Sorry, Joy. But it's unspoken expectation is unresolved
Mm,
resentment, and
mm,
that comes into play when there's a boundary that has been broken because you're feeling resentful. And that's where that trigger, I call it a trigger, or that's where you want to look and go, okay, where's the lesson here? And, that shit angel, they're not shit. They're beautiful, amazing human beings. They're just here to teach you a lesson around that unspoken expectation is the resentment. So it's very powerful when you start looking at that and going, taking ownership of your own resentment.
right. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that phrase, the shit angel. Oh my gosh. Now, when someone's talking to you and you feel that, you just go, okay, this is a shit angel. What's the message?
There's a shit angel. Okay, what's the message? And if that's all you do, that's half the battle.
You're right, because it changes your whole attitude towards it. You just like in your head, oh, if they can only hear what I'm thinking, but they can't. So it's like your perspective changes. It's absolutely right.
That's it.
It's very powerful. Yeah, I love it. That should be a mantra.
Yeah.
Or your what is it? You wake up every morning. Okay, I'm ready
That's
for
my
those
wake
shit
up with.
angels.
I'm ready for them to come in, and sometimes they're your family, and it's
Oh,
just a moment in time. They're not shit all the time. It's just that time is, and it's usually because you've broken your own boundary.
yep. Yep. Family is, I'm up there with you. I get that 100%. But that being said, what are the three strategies then, the specific things that someone can do today if they're facing a crisis and trying to keep their business, career, and/or everyday living alive?
So before we get to the practical, go and do these things. I feel the best thing to do in that moment is feel the feels. So
Mm,
feel the emotion. Allow that emotion to bubble up and come out. So we want to
mhm,
feel the feels and we want to name it. So when we name it, it's then psychologically, there is science behind this, just so you know, that when we name that emotion, it's almost like a separation in our, I don't know how to describe it very well, but it's sort of like we're one step removed from the emotion so that it's less intense. And then in that moment, I literally talk to myself and go, Bron, what's the control the controllables. So
mm,
what is in my path? Where can I control the controllables? And then finding that wisdom. And the wisdom is found by pausing. My husband is the best
mhm.
person, Paul, to me this, whereas we want to pause. We want to think, reflect, what's going on here? Sorry. We want to, then once we reflect and we have a better picture of, we can then respond. So when we respond, we're not reacting.
Mm,
And sorry, yeah. So when we respond, we're not reactive. So we're actually putting some thought into what we're saying and doing and feeling. And if you need to, you're going to rinse and repeat that as
mhm,
many times as you need to be able to get to the point where you then can start to look at, okay, I'm in crisis. And in crisis, for me, health is always first.
right.
Then we can look at, well, what can I do? What can I do for my health right in this moment? And sometimes it's crying through it. You can't fix it. Can I?
Mhm,
Can't fix it at the moment. So if we let go of wanting to fix everything, well, what's the next thing that we can do in business? when you're looking at if there's a crisis going on, once you've realized and made peace with the feelings, work through that feelings, and you've looked at the control of the controllables, all I talk about for me, for my clients, for business, what's the next thing? Not next week, not next month, the next thing today. That's going to help, because it's not motivation. It's not. But it's also about when we do the next thing, our brains will automatically go, cool, what's the next thing? And the next thing. And then before you know it, you're able to then see clearly through what's going on in that moment. So that would be my advice for someone, is to literally take a moment, literally a serenity moment. Take a moment and take the time to allow if you're feeling terrified, feel it. Don't leave it inside. Don't let it fester. Let it out. Because right then in that moment, it's completely normal for you. And when you do that, you name it, you can then hit the pause. Then you can start to reflect and look at what's going on. And then you respond. And that respond is with the next thing. So that's sort of the process that and again, it's rinse and repeat. You could do it 20, 30, 50 times a day, because it's a moment, rather than, okay, Bron, well, we're going to have to do the numbers and we're going to go to the bank and we've got to fix zero up or whatever it is. That's not going to help you. Doesn't help you solve the flexibility of being a willow tree with resilience, because otherwise you will get caught in the chaos that is sitting on your desk, that is sitting in your brain, that is sitting in your computer.
Yes, it's that one step at a time, because when we look at the
Yeah.
whole thing, whatever that might be, that's when we start to go down the spiral, because we're trying to address everything at once and it's too much.
Yeah.
That's why I love what you said, the one thing. What's the one thing I can do right now in this
One
moment
thing.
to shift something? Not the whole thing, but just the one. And then, like you said, then go to the next thing. And it's very interesting, because I read recently that this is something what they do with the SEAL teams, is once they've been on an exercise or they've been out in the field, because they have so much adrenaline and they're very highly trained. But when they get back, they're not given time to rest and relax right away. They say, no, we have 3 protocols that you must do. You must check your equipment, clean your equipment, and do this, because they're keeping them busy with that one thing. It's all about a mindset, because they want them to decompress, but they're giving them exercises or tactical things to do, so that they know that this is where they have to go. It's very interesting. I found it was very interesting, but it reminded me of that one thing.
Well, it is. It's pretty much the same, because when these crises or when these adversities come, Kerry, my beautiful lady, the healer, she taught me that she has a saying, which I know I will, I just don't know how. So we let go of the how, we let go of the control, because that's what control is. We want to control it all. No, we don't need to control it all. Because when we focus on the one thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, guess what? You'll end up there, but you just don't know how you're going to get there. And I think especially as entrepreneurs, that we want all the answers. We want the clear path. We want all the dots. And I remember back in 2015 at one of my retreats, I played a video that is so amazing, and it's still so popular today, and I still can't remember the guy's name. He does it, but he talks about, you don't see the dots joining until you look backwards, because you can't see the dots, and you can't see them until you've done it.
Right.
And that's the same thing in business. It's the next thing, rather than, oh, we're going to go all the way down there. No, you're not. And then before you know it and you start looking behind you, that's, in my world now, that's the dots joining, and that's the path of healing that you have achieved. And you might have 2 dots rather than 200. Well, fantastic. You've got 2 dots. That is the best thing ever for you today.
Yeah. Wonderful. Just a great lesson for all of us to take away. Thank you for that. Well, my
My
next
pleasure.
question is about passion led leadership. What role does
Mm.
compassion led leadership play in business resilience?
I feel for me that as a leader in my own space, we are all leaders, guy, by the way, is we have to lead with ourselves. So we lead with compassion for myself. And I believe in, for me, the demonstration. You don't need to talk leadership, you need to demonstrate leadership. And the buck stops with the leader. So, therefore, if you're wanting an awesome team, and understanding, I use a thing called Gallup Strength. So I'm not sure if you've heard of Gallup Strength. I have a very dear friend who, so it's like it's not personality, but it's actually your hidden strengths. They are the strengths that you are innately you. So when we have those strengths and you know what your strengths are, you work with them. We're not trying to improve the ones that you're not as good as. So when it comes for being a leader, I did my strengths. It was so funny because my top strength was strategic, right? And I said, Linda, I don't want strategic. That is boring. Can I have another one? And she said, Bron, no, that is your gift. Because I didn't understand it at the time. But what it means for me is that I can see the vision because my strength is strategy. But what if I'm working with someone who doesn't have initiative? So I think as a leader, it's about understanding compassion and looking and understanding yourself and valuing that. Because when you demonstrate that, what does that automatically do? It's like a rock being thrown into the river. There's always the ripples. And that's what a leader does. A leader leaves ripples. So what sort of ripples do you want to leave for your team or the people that are around you in your network? And that to me starts with the self. So rather than trying to improve everyone else, I start improving myself. I start working on myself. I'm looking at being the best I can be for me because then I am automatically the best for everyone else around me.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's all about leading yourself. Life is about leading yourself. So
It
that's
is.
a great lesson. And you're right, it is the ripple effect. And it's so powerful when you have that kind of leadership and that individual has the awareness. And we're
Yes.
very, very slowly getting there. But yes, that is so true. So you mentioned earlier on about the third space. Just give us some insight into that again and where science meets soul and fear loses its grip. I love that.
It that space, I call it the third space because it's smack in the middle where all of the parts intersect. So in the health profession, from my experience, it's very siloed. We have doctors, we have even hematologists will not look at cardiology. So we have lots and lots of silos. And for me, I found the silos talking to each other. I had to make that happen. But what if everyone didn't have that insight? They can't because I have that perspective because I've lived it, I've worked it. And so the third space was born, which is the Serenity Project. That community is for those who are looking beyond the silo. So rather than alternative or either or, it's an and. So that's where we have experts, where we have those who bring it together. So in health, I say to my people, I'm the CEO of Bron. And on my executive committee are the people who I want to be making the decisions with me. So for me, I found this most incredible doctor in Brazil. And I found her through someone, whereas I was speaking on a summit and they said, there's this woman and she's a GP in Brazil. I love her and her ethos because she's so beautiful. So she's on my executive committee. And then I have another doctor who has been by my side from day one. And then next we have down there are my specialists. And this is no disrespect to the specialists. But what would normally happen? The doctor says jump and we say how high. So I'm changing that for me because I'm the CEO. I'd like to have all the information. And I'm not saying I'm not the scientist. So this is what I said. Please don't read all the science journals because you won't know what you're reading. You're not meant to. We leave that to the experts, but bring in those experts. Same with business. Bring in the people who are the experts in what they do, and then they become your executive committee. And then me, CEO, I get the final vote, which means that I'm making the right decision for me on my path of healing. So that's what the third space is about. It's not just about teaching. It's about collaboration. It's about voices coming together to go, guys, we want you government, we want you health system to please, look at us. I'm a human being behind the blood result. I say to my doctor, I've just got a little bit of feedback for you. I laugh. Oh, here we go. And the feedback was, could you please let your junior doctor over there, could you please let them know that there's a human being behind that blood result? Thank you. I know they laugh at me, but it's the truth, because that's what science does. That's how they learn. And that is so amazing. We want science, guys. We want alternative therapy. We want those people in their lanes, but we want to pull it together so that we all don't individually have to go and find everything, because it's just not possible. I don't believe anyway.
Right. Yeah. No, such great advice. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And this comes with maturity, and like you said, with experience, and like we said earlier on, it would be great if we had this information when we were young, but we are spreading this information now to those who are young, and hopefully there are more of them listening and getting this information, so that when they get into their other years, they have this knowledge and they have this wisdom, as you put it, because that saves so much time and so much energy. And it makes a big difference in life.
Huge. And I was having these exact conversations with my 24-year-old son who's at university about some things in his life. Identical. Wonderful. So it's about that flexibility of taking the bits you need and leaving the rest. Yeah. And I think that goes in life. But having that belief that I know I will, I just don't know how. I still don't know how.
Right.
But I have the absolute belief in myself that I know that Bron and the committee are going to do the best thing for Bron.
Right. Yeah. I love that. That's wonderful. Well, what would you say to someone who's listening right now and facing their own crises, and it feels like they must choose between their well-being and their dream?
I would first of all say, look, I'm so sorry you're going through this. If you're going through that crisis, and it's not an either or. For me, health always first, because if you don't have health, you are not going to get your dream. It just will not happen. It's just not possible. So we want to make sure that we remove that control. We look at health first. We look at the next thing. The dream doesn't have to change. Remember how I said earlier that for the first time in 3 years, I've actually set a goal. I've set a dream as such. It's written in pencil. It is not so hardwired that I can't fail. I simply can't fail, because I'm building it no matter what. I'm not alone, but it means in business for you, or however you are in your crisis, it's understanding that nothing can happen without health, and that health drives it all. The dream doesn't have to go away, but the timeline that you've attached to it may need some flexibility. And that's resilience. So it's about flexibility, not letting go of the dream, but understanding that the flexibility, that things can change in a minute. So when we set goals, have the compassion and understanding that you may need to reset it again in 5 minutes' time. But you set it again, and you still believe, and then you set it again, and then you set it again. Every time I go to the doctor every month, and every month I could be going in going, Bron, we're one step closer to active treatment again. Cool, I know that's coming. But I'm not focusing on that. I'm just focusing on the next thing, which is having an amazing conversation with you, for example. Do you see? So I'm not wasting my energy on the future. I'm sure as hell not wasting it on the past. I can't change that. What I have is here, I have now. And that is what I would say to someone.
Right. Beautiful. Be the willow tree. Yeah.
Be the willow.
Yeah,
Be the
absolutely.
willow. And I look at that tree and I go, thank you for the lessons, because it is out
Yeah.
that way.
That's a great daily reminder for sure. Well, you've spoken
Mm.
a little bit here about your setting your 3-year goal or dream. So, what is next for you and the Serenity Project, if you don't mind sharing a little insight into your dream?
Well, thank you. So the dream this year is to finish the book. The book has been coming for
Mm,
for years and years and years, because I'm still learning, right? So I am the project. So it's never going to end, but I'm finishing that book this year. And the community is it was meant to have been open. So this is the thing, right? So serenityproject.com.au, it was launched towards the end of last year. We've got the podcast, we've got newsletters, we've got the things. So it's a community. And I haven't opened it because my health, I haven't had the capacity. And I've given myself permission to go, you know what? This is the thing about literally about how we set the goals, right? It's there and it's ready and waiting for when I'm ready. So I've taken the time. So that community will open, I promise. And that's it's where the panel of experts are. We have a whole swag of things inside that community, just these little tiny snippets. You take what
mm,
you need, you leave the rest. And even a book club, because I love book clubs. And finding books that people like, I'm reading one at the moment that was written like 40 years ago, but it's so valuable. Love, Miracles, and something. It's Dr. Siegel. Amazing book, way before his time. So it's just, that's where I'm going. But if it doesn't happen in March, if it doesn't happen in June, it's okay. It's going to happen. I just don't quite know when.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Practicing what you preach. So
I
that's
am.
it's wonderful. And then, like you said, you have that to look forward to. And the book club could be discussing the book that finally comes out as well. So, that's, yeah, that
Yeah,
would
and
be
I hadn't
wonderful.
thought of that, actually.
Oh my
I hadn't thought
gosh.
of that. Yeah.
That's perfect. You go through chapter by
Mm,
chapter and have a discussion about each one. I
I
mean,
hadn't thought of that.
mm, you got to do it. I
Wow.
think it'd
Thanks,
be
Jane. Thank
fantastic.
you.
Yes, you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
There's your first book review, and that'll give you an
There you
incentive
go.
to get it finished because it says it's
Wow.
got such incredible information, and all those who are going to add to it and give you more insight for possibly your second book. But there's your first book review. It's
Jane.
yours.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. And you got to let me know when it's published because we'll have you on
I
again. So
will.
let me
I
know.
will. I will.
So,
Thank you.
Bron, you're very welcome. If there was one message that you could share with the world today, what would it be?
This is what I live by. And it's a
Mm,
saying that says, I didn't say it, someone else did. Be where your feet are. Be where your feet are. And if
mm,
you are in your head and your head is ruminating and your brain is going overdrive, literally look at your feet. Literally look down, feel the floor, take your shoes off, and be where your feet are.
mhm.
It's
Yeah,
very powerful.
I love that. Be where your feet are. That's a great thing to have in your mind, especially when you feel anxious or depressed or you're facing a chaos or a diagnosis, anything like that. Be where
Mm-hmm.
your feet are.
Mm-hmm.
It takes your mind to another perspective. You're not.
You used the word grounding before, and what it does is it grounds you.
Mhm.
Serenity
Yeah.
grounds you. Being where your feet are will ground you, which means being in the present, because we are human beings. We are not human doings. So when we become a human being in the moment, and we are so conscious and aware and focus on where our feet are and the coffee in our hands or the dog by your side or whatever it may be, it is such medicine right there.
Mm. And you know what I love about it? It's so simple. You could even teach that to
So
children.
simple.
To children, just think of it. When a child
Exactly.
gets out of control or they're having a temper tantrum, be where your feet are. What a valuable lesson you could teach them for the rest of their life. What
Yeah.
Be where your feet are. And they'll go, what? I said, look at your
Mm,
feet. Be where your feet are. Wow. I love that. That is so powerful.
mm, mm.
Well, Bron, give our audience how best to connect with you. And this will be on our pages as well.
I think the best way is just go to theserenityproject.com.au. There is a newsletter if you're interested in finding out more about what we do. Find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Bron Watson, very easy. More than happy. So on our website, we have a lovely, beautiful link where you can actually leave a voicemail. You can leave a text. I answer every single one because it's those moments. And you know what? You don't need to be alone. You really don't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the most important, and that's very connecting. And I see where your passion for connection comes in, because that is
Yeah.
unusual to be able to leave a text, a voicemail, and someone gets back
Mm.
to you. So thank you
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that.
And it'll be
And
me, just so you know.
wonderful.
Mm.
Yes, that's true too, because we have often people who do social media and it's not the individual. So, and
No,
because we're here on
that's
the
right.
Epic Right. And because we're here on the Epic Vision Zone, I have one last question, Bron. If your life were an epic story, which I believe it is, what would the title be?
No, I had to do some research on this because I was laughing. It's like the absolute shit show, you know. But what I came up with is breaking good patient rules
Mm.
and or the chaos theory. But I thought breaking the good patient rules. And I'm an amazing patient. My doctors appreciate me. So so that's what I came up with.
Mm. That is absolutely perfect. I love it. Breaking the good patient rules. Oh my gosh. Perfect. Well, thank you again, Bron, for reminding us that serenity is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of self. And if you know someone who may be standing at the edge of their own unknown, share this with them and certainly have them get in touch with Bron. And once again, for information to connect with Bron, go to the Epic Vision Zone bio pages where you will find all of her social media and direct contact information. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath. Look me up at janeapplegath.com and like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Epic Vision Zone. Sending you much love and gratitude. Until next time, stay visionary, lead with love, stay epic.